And welcome to Pursuing Truth Podcast. I'm Hector Lazaro, your host, and I'm here with a very special friend of mine. His name is Adrian Espindola.
Yep.
Let's go.
Got it right.
Round of applause. I'm going to try to figure out how to get sound effects. To do like rounds of applause.
That would be cool.
Yeah. But we'll figure that out. Adrian, how's your day?
Dude, my day. Oh my gosh. It's really good. It's August 7th. A lot of the missionaries, like SPO missionaries, are coming in. So we are taking them around touring San Marcos. And so that's what I was doing all morning. So today was like 100 degrees outside in Texas. And heat exhaustion. So, but now you're here. So we're doing that.
Audience, in case you don't know, SPO, again, is St. Paul's Outreach, which is a organization that is focused on outreaching to college students and on living a more Christ-centered life, pretty much.
Live deep relationship and be a transformational people.
Yeah, let's go.
That's our slogan.
I guess that is our slogan.
Yeah, and then our vision is Be McFifty, build missional communities in 50 cities. That's our goal. So
okay,
hopefully San Antonio, Austin will be on the map in the few years.
So if you're in the audience, welcome to a conversation. Honestly, this pod wasn't one that I had been like planning for super long or anything. Adrian and I are just like best buds, and I was like, dude, let's pick up the mics and let's record our conversations.
Yeah.
For some background on Adrian and I's relationship is we go way back. No, I'm just kidding.
Way back.
But I met him my freshman year of college, and you were in household by then, right?
Yeah, I lived in Sinai, rest in peace, and I think Thomas, who reached out to you, like invited you to the men's house, and I was like on fire for the Lord at that point, and like outreach was like so easy for me.
Yeah.
And so when you came around, I was like, oh, this guy is like matching my energy. Like, oh, like he's hype, I'm hype. Like let's go. And we clicked like real easily, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think it was funny because I think I remember like I never really saw you because you were always like doing your own thing, or you were always in small group, and so. Yeah, we never really spoke until it was like fan to flame, and when you were in my small group at that time, and that small group was dope. We had Will, Justin, you, and a couple other guys, but those guys, I mean, you guys were like my best friends like throughout my entire career.
That's crazy. That was 3 years ago now, right?
2020.
That was 2020.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, and now we're like best buds, and Adrian's on a whole new path. So I'm gonna kind of go through some of Adrian's experiences, and then we'll get into a couple topics. But before we do any of that, we should probably pray.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thank you, God, for the opportunity to have such a great brother like Adrian. Thank you, God, for the opportunity to be in relationship with people that love you, and for conversations like Adrian and I have had so many times. Lord, we just ask that you help us to be ourselves and to speak the words that you know are right, Lord, the words that you want to communicate. Lord, I ask that you, like always, pull up a chair and enter in this conversation, because with you all things are right. And I ask that those who are listening can receive good wisdom or good feelings from this pod, and that we continue to be respectful and continue to be responsible with the things we communicate. Lord, I thank you for all the pods that I've already recorded, and I ask that you just bless this one. In your most holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Why do you keep laughing, dude? You're making me feel nervous.
Sorry, it's because I remember you said that you can hear like breathing, and I wanted to test it. And so while you were praying, I sniffed a little bit. I don't know if people heard, but yeah, it was like I couldn't stop laughing. Sorry.
Dude, okay, let's get at it. So, talk to me, Adrian. Where are you from?
Oh, man.
What is like your childhood like? I want to get like deep into
that.
your life.
Okay.
I want to learn all your dirty little secrets.
Oh, okay. So I'm from Harlingen. So if you look at Texas, it looks like a boot, and I'm on like the tip of the boot next to Brownsville. It's basically a border town. It's like 30 minutes from Mexico, and so like in high school, we would go and just get some tacos. That was like a normal thing. So I'm from there. It's like a pretty mid-sized town, and so it's like everyone knew everybody. And so I was kind of tired of like living in a small town. I loved the city life, and so when it was finally time for me to get out of the house and figure out what I'm gonna do with my life, my family was just like, especially my dad. He said, "You need to leave the valley. If not, you're gonna stay in the valley." And that's like a really big deal, because like in the valley, like it's just kind of culturally, like I don't know how to put into words. Like if you look at the men there, they're just like very childish. There's a lot of things you can get mixed up in, drugs, gangs, and so it's like behind the scenes, it's like really not a good place to be living in. But like if you're like in the right part of town, like where I was from, it was a good part. It was a good upbringing. So like growing up, like my family was like, we were Creasters, so we would go to mass like around Christmas and Easter. But that was it.
Hold on. You said Creasters?
Creasters.
Is that the word?
Yeah, it's a common term. I think a lot of people know what that means, but I like to say it because people are like, "Oh yeah, like that's what we do." I'm like, "Yeah, you're a Creaster."
Creaster.
Yeah, so Christmas and Easter people, and so we would just go on those holidays. But I think after 6th grade, after being dragged by my grandma to go to mass and stuff, I stopped going to CCD and I stopped going to Vacation Bible School because I was like, thought I was gonna, like, I got into sports. I was like, I gotta focus on my career. Like if I want to make it to like the big leagues, I gotta work out. I gotta do this every day. So that's like our mindset. Like as kids, like we're like, oh, like I want to go pro. So that was funny to think about. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I wanted to be like a professional athlete.
Facts.
Especially like for track. Like what the heck? But
wait, was your plan to be like an Olympian or something?
My goal was, I had like short-term goals. So it was like, one, go to state. Next one was go to college, run track, and then eventually see what happens from there. But that was like a roller coaster, just because there was a lot of things that was just like eventually happening, like in high school and all that. Like I grew up with my mom and dad like divorced around I was 12, so that was a little bit hard. But having to take care of like my younger brother and go through a lot of the hardships of what that brought was definitely changing my mindset of like, okay, like I actually like want to go to school or the army, like where I can actually get out of Harlingen and like make a name for myself. And so it was funny because I was actually going to sign up for the Marine Corps.
What?
Yeah,
I can totally see you as a Marine.
Yeah, I remember like the Marine recruiter like coming in and like taking me out of class to get me Chick-fil-A, and they were like talking to me. They wanted me to like, they were ready for me to sign. I was like, let me think about it. But luckily it was interesting because the girl I was dating, this is like flash forward, but senior year, I'm dating this girl. I met her at my job, and she was like, yeah, I'm Catholic. I'm like, no way, me too, dude. Like I just said that because I just wanted something in common.
Right.
And so I was like, we should go to mass together. And so she took me to her like to St. Anthony's, and I was like really like trying to get her to like me. So yeah, I think she like made me like want to go to mass and like actually try something other than the army or like the Marine Corps.
Right.
So she helped me a lot with my college transcripts and my college essays and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny. I'm here, like I came to college because of a girl. Like I chased this girl because I thought she was like the one. But as I was chasing that, I just fell into like a lot of like loneliness, a lot of like emptiness when I got to college at Texas State. I got mixed up with the wrong group of crowd, like a wrong group of people that I thought were my friends, but in reality they were just like people I would go to parties with, and got mixed up with a couple of things with alcohol and drugs, and it was just like it felt so lonely and empty, and I just like hated myself.
Can you talk about like a typical day in the life of Adrian? Like when you say
freshman
lonely,
year,
like how lonely did you feel?
So I lived in Arnold Hall, and if people don't know that, it's basically like the single dorm, like at Texas State, and so it was like a single room. So I would wake up like till like 8 or 9, sleep in a little bit, go to class, come back, and then I would eat. Like I would pick up like Chick-fil-A and then eat in my dorm, watch The Office, and then play Call of Duty or something on my like TV like for like hours. And then maybe it was like, if it was like a Wednesday, maybe like around 9 p.m. I would like hang out with the people, like just because like I didn't want to, like I was like, oh, like let's go out, yeah, like I'll go, and then we would go and drink. And so it was like every day, like it was either me alone in my room like watching The Office or like playing on my PlayStation, and that was it. It was like so it just felt like repeating myself. I was like, wow, is this really like life? I was like really contemplating like, wow, this is it. But yeah, that relationship took a turn when it ended up becoming like an idol for me. Like I just saw her more as like as someone to like depend on for like a lot of happiness. And so it was just really lonely. I think eventually that relationship ended going into my sophomore year, and by that time I had my conversion with SPO, my second semester of college. It was like starting in January, I was like, okay, like I'm feeling this kind of loneliness, let me go back to the church, like let me see what's up. So I went to confession, and that was really cool. I was like, Father, I haven't been here in like 10 years, like I don't know what to do. And yeah, he like allowed me to like speak into a lot of things, and then I like wanted more, so I got confirmed, and then eventually
Wait, where'd you get confirmed?
I got confirmed like through Olo at St. Anthony's in Kyle, Texas.
So you took RCA classes here,
yeah,
and then you got confirmed in Harlingen.
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of funny. And I was like, okay, like I'm Catholic now, I can receive again. Like what am I gonna do now? Like, is it gonna be like going back to my old ways where like I just feel empty, or am I gonna like try something new? And so like I looked for information to Texas State like organizations. I just put the word Catholic, and I just like emailed like all the people like were Catholic. I'm like, hey, I just want information. Like this is like, I'm not like interested in like joining. I just want information. And like the next week, like Thomas, he like came up to me like on a random day, and he's like, hey man, like are you Adrian? And I'm like, yeah, like how do you know? And he's like, yeah, like I found you like on Facebook, and yeah, like I wanted to meet you, and if you have any information like or any questions, like I can give you information. I was like, all right, sweet, and I'll like come to this small group that you're offering me, so like we'll try that. And eventually, as I kept on going, I was just like really astonished like how the conversation went. Like this guy is like a Catholic dude, and he's like really cool. He's very approachable. He's very like the way he talks, and he just talks in like a sophisticated way. He's very confident in himself, and I was like, wow, that's like what a Catholic man should be like. And I was like, I want to be a Catholic man like that. So yeah, I kind of stuck around, and he invited me to Fan to Flame, where I had my conversion. Like I gave Lord my life that day, and he proved his existence to me basically. Because I was like praying like all day. I was like, Lord, prove to me you're real, because I don't believe it. And yeah, God proved his love, his faithfulness to me, and he came through. And from that day, like I joined Household, and yeah, like that was like a pivotal moment in my life where I was like, I like turned away from like all the things I was doing. And after that experience, and after that the breakup I had, I was like, I didn't care, because I knew in just a few months I was going to be around a good good group of men who were like all in for the Lord. And so yeah, I was like too hype to even like be sad about the breakup, or I was just like super excited to just like meet all the guys in the household.
Yeah. So quick pause. If you hear noise in the background, it's because we are in the men's house right now.
Yeah.
And some of the men are moving in, but we found like a nice living room area kind of thing, and we decided to do it in here. But yeah, keep it down. Dude, so that's really cool. I can like picture in my head kind of your transformation. It was like this like process. I feel like you probably saw the most effect at like once you got to like SPO and all that. But I can see this like slow like evolution of Adrian, you know, just like from like recognizing that you are like hurt, and then entering into something that you know is going to like help, you know.
Oh yeah.
And those decisions, I think those small ones are probably what matters the most in terms of when you get to that big moment, being prepared, because it doesn't just take a retreat to change someone, you know, and it doesn't just take a couple of hangouts with someone, you know. It takes this like process of decisions, you know, where it's like I'm deciding that my life could be better. I'm deciding that I'm not as good as I think I am. You know, just like little decisions like that.
Absolutely. It takes a big thing is trust. It takes trust. And if it wasn't like, if Thomas came up to me, he's like, "Hey man, you want to come to a Catholic retreat?" I would have been like, "Dude, no." Like he invested in the relationship. He constantly like reached out to me. As much as I like ignored him, he was consistent, and eventually got me to realize that. And yeah, I think that's how God works a lot too, and just like he doesn't come at you in like an abrupt force. He like meets you where you're at, and that's how Thomas was. He like met me where I was at, and it changed my whole life.
Wow, dude, that's beautiful. So now you are converted, you're confirmed, you're into this thing. What are some practical things that you're doing day to day to practice your faith?
I mean, first and foremost, it's prayer. I think that's what that one of the qualities that was like instilled in me through household was prayer life, and not just like going to mass like once a week. It was like as much as you can go to daily mass and get at least 15 to 30 minutes of prayer every day. And that time, it was so interesting to like look back now that you say that, because like my priority, dude, was like wake up in the morning and like go work out. And if you saw me my sophomore year, I was pretty like
shredded.
I was I was pretty fit. Okay,
I remember.
I'll put it as that. But like as I joined household, like I think what like really spoke to me was I think it was in Genesis when I think it was Cain and Abel, when Abel gave his first fruits, and God found like so much like pleasure in that. And when he gave, and then Cain, when he just like gave the last, he didn't really like receive as much. And so I really like saw that. I was like, am I giving God like all that I can like in the morning, or am I just like brushing him off until I have time?
So for scripture context, I think what you're referring to is in Genesis. Basically, obviously, like there's Adam and Eve, they're created, and then they have their children, and Cain and Abel are both their sons, and basically God is still in communion with them, and Abel gives God his first fruits. He's like, I guess this is in context to them like growing things and like trying to like harvest things, you know, make things, and Abel gives God like the first things that come out, but Cain, he like waits for him to like save stuff for himself, and he gives him like the last like, you know, scraps basically. And what happens is that God actually, he rewards Abel, or he blesses him. Something happens.
He finds favor in, I think.
He finds favor in Abel, and then Cain, that doesn't happen, and Cain gets really jealous, so he decides to kill Abel.
Yeah.
And then God kicks him out, and there's this whole other story. But the point is, it's like, well, why did God do that? They both gave him fruits. Well, yeah, but Abel gave him like the very first and most important thing that he had.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, and I think as I like grew like in my discipleship, I just like saw like God as more of a priority than as like as a chore. Like, oh, like I have to pray today, but like no, it's like I get to pray because prayer is like where I get filled, like my cup filled. It's where I'm able to get it filled and then pour it out into others. It's where I'm able to take all that baggage that I'm claim like I have, or just like renew my identity as a son.
What does your prayer look like? Like, what do you do in prayer?
My personal prayer looks like, one, just like invite the Spirit into like where I'm at. So like just like silence my heart, just try to get away from all distractions and just like take like a minute to just like focus on my breathing and just like look for God in that. And after that, I just like kind of just like give thanksgiving and just like, thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for letting me be alive again. I think after, like, I take that seriously now. Like after my house fire when I was a sophomore, I take that very seriously. I'm like, thank you, Lord, for letting me be alive today. And then after I like kind of reflect, I'm like, okay, like where's my heart at? Like, where is it hurting? Like, is there something bugging me? And then I like write it all down. I write it all down because it like slows my thoughts. It like allows me to think more, and allows me to like honestly like look back when I'm like 50 years old. I'm like, oh wow, I struggled with this. Like, huh, that sucks. But no, I've actually been able to like look back on like my like first or second journal, and I'm like, oh wow, like I remember I was like I didn't think God was going to provide for this, and then he did, and I was like, wow, thank you, Lord. So it's like a lot of grace. I get to look back on my life like through these pages, and like as I'm like writing down this stuff, maybe the Lord will put something on my heart, like maybe a Bible verse, or if I'm stuck and I just like have like writer's block, I'll turn to the daily readings, and that is super helpful because the Lord can speak through those readings as well. And
what are the daily readings?
The daily readings, it's like it's really cool because like the Catholic Church is like offers these like verses that the whole church prays. So it's actually like how like people in like Tokyo or in, I don't know, Harlingen, they're like literally reading, like they have the same readings.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like the Catholic Church is like a community, and so the daily readings is like really awesome for me to look into. Because it's like what the church offers, and the church like honestly asks the Spirit and like looks ahead and like ask the Lord like what reading should we put together. So it's all Spirit led, it's all charismatic, and it's like I love to look at that because it's always very dependable. And yeah, like reflect on that, and by that time it's kind of like around 25 minutes. I'm like, okay, like I got this thing going on, and then I just kind of close it out with like Thanksgiving, prayer intentions. Yeah, kind of be like, okay, Lord, like let's do this today. Let's get this.
So I feel like depending on what you do on the daily basis, a lot of people can think that 15 minutes to 30 minutes sounds like a lot of time. You're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, like how much free time do we have a day, and what do we use it on? Like most people probably use at least an hour of their day to be on TikTok.
Yeah, I was gonna say, look at your phone. Like if you go into screen time, it's amazing to see how much people like spend on like Instagram or like you said, TikTok. My thing right now is like mine is like Clash of Clans. So I got back on that. Like I go in through seasons. Like right now, it's like if I'm bored, like I'll just go in there and just like upgrade a bunch of stuff. And I hate that because it's like I want to be in the moment. Like there's just like there's so little time we have. I think I've realized that like our time is such a gift on this earth, and like I don't want to spend it indoors, like the Lord made us for like adventure.
Wow.
I think we had this talk because like you, especially like although it's like so hot outside, dude, you just like you want to do something. Like you don't want to be stuck in this house all day and just like watching TV. It's like time wasted.
Because I feel like we're always making an excuse, you know? Like, it's always like, it's too hot outside,
Mhm.
but then winter comes around, it's too cold.
Yeah, or I don't have enough money. That's a huge thing for like when I
Yeah.
was like like in college. Like, dude, I was like, I can't go out, guys. Like, I only have like $100 in my bank account. But I think I realized I was like, you have such little time with these people. Like, you need to like make the most of it. And so, I would like push back a lot of like assignments so I can go out with my with like Will or you and just like hang out. Like, those were like one of the best times. Like, although it's like my vocation or like my priority is to be a student, I was like, I want to be with these guys more than anything. And so I cherish those moments more than I cherish school. I remember those moments more than the stupid tests I took every day or the quizzes.
I hear you. I think that's like a common thing, and it's something that I struggled with a lot, was just like, you get so bogged down by school, and you're just like, this is life, and this is what matters to me, and I can't enjoy anything else unless I get all these things done. And to some degree, I think that's true. You know, to some degree, I think it's like you said, it's your vocation. It's what you need to be doing when you're a student. It's like, get all your work done.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, like, God made us for this life, and we need to enjoy it, and we need to like do things and experience like, you know, social interactions and all those good things.
Yeah.
And I think like I almost idolized like the perfect American life, you know? Like, I feel like that's like a common thing in my life, where it's just like, I'm like, well, once I graduate and once I get that job and once I get the house, then it's all going to be like perfect.
Yeah.
But like, that's not how it works, you know?
Yeah.
It's just not, you can't find your happiness in this material things.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing in Hispanic culture as well. Like, I think my grandma, like, really, she was like, you need to go to college so you can have a good job so you don't have to work on your feet all day and be outside.
Right.
Like, they were, like, all my family was very adamant. Like, you need to be, like, successful in order to be happy.
Right.
In order to be happy, you need to make a lot of money so you can be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big thing that it was really hard for me to break that ideology out. And man, like, yeah, like Hispanic culture, we're very, like, we're all about family, but we're also like all about like, this is me. Like I built my life. Like, you should build up your life too. Like,
right.
Like, you need to work for what you have.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing.
To some degree, I think that's like a good thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because like, we also have a very like lazy culture, I feel, where we're just like, we won't do anything. Where like we get things handed down to us, and we get spoon fed all the time. But I think what the Hispanic culture like tries to teach is just like, you need to grind, and like, when you earn your, you know, as like my mom would say, when you earn your papa, like when you earn your potato, then you really made it. Because it's beautiful when you can see your own work and realize like, dang, like, I accomplished that, and like, that's great. And if you were to mix that with like, God like helped me accomplish this, and like, it was through the grace of God, then there's like a really nice balance there. And I think that's like my greatest work right now, is just like being able to balance that. Like, God gave me this grace, and I also worked for it, you know. It takes both.
Yeah. And also, man, I think like when you said like, we're just trying, like, our generation just tries to take the easy way out, and that's like such a struggle, especially with the younger generation. But like now, like AI, oh my gosh, that is it's gonna be practically impossible. I think like ChatGPT came out when I was a senior. If it was like when it was like maybe my freshman year, dude, oh my gosh, I would be like,
you wouldn't learn anything
destroyed.
in school.
Yeah, I'd have been just like putting the right code or like the right prompt, and then just put not an AI format, and then just like gone through college the entire way.
So I've actually still not used ChatGPT.
Oh, I don't use it. It's such a bad tool. I think I've relied on it like a lot of times when I'm like writing out like an email or like spell checking a lot of things, and it just like automatically just makes it sound better. I'm like, oh wait, that actually sounds a lot better. Let me just like actually copy and paste that. So I mean, I worked a lot in like around high school students as well at my physical therapy clinic.
Yeah.
And every day they would just be like, yeah, just like just got a whole like finished my class with an A because of ChatGPT, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is this is so scary. And they're actually like trying to put AI into schools. Like they're gonna try to teach kids like with an AI because
Dude, that's
there's just
dirty.
like a shortage of like teachers and stuff.
That is just dirty.
Yeah, so I don't know where society's going after this, but I pray that we can just kind of get into gears and actually like work again, like just like how like past generations have, because it wasn't broken. Like we should actually go back into like bring back those ideas where like you work for what you have.
So, I guess we're kind of leading into this topic. But earlier, well, you mentioned a few things, right? You mentioned your parents were divorced. You mentioned that you were really lonely, that you created your relationship as like an idol. You mentioned, well, now you're mentioning all this AI stuff and how that's just like not the best.
Yeah. All over the place.
What do you think about our world in terms of its brokenness? Like, we have so many things going wrong, obviously, but why do you think that there's such a I don't know how you would say it.
Like a hole, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's like a lot of this emptiness.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, I think we can all agree, like every college student can agree on this. Like there's just always been like an experience where we feel like it's not enough. And so we just like feel like empty inside, where we just like feel like we need to fill it. And so what do we fill it with? Okay, like we'll fill it with happiness. Well, how do we get happiness? Okay, maybe it's do like something that'll just give me like a high real quick. Maybe it's drugs, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's friends, or maybe it's porn, or yeah, like sex or something like that. And like we'll like fill it in with those. We'll fill in that hole with these little pleasures, and yeah, like it'll get us like to that like feeling like that ecstasy. But after that, like where do you feel now? Like, oh, like you just need to hit it again, like get that dopamine again. Okay, let me hit it again and again, and eventually you're just gonna grow tiresome of it. And I think that's where a lot of men especially feel, especially with like the hookup culture, or just like how like society sees us. Like we're just like trying to like fill in the gaps by maybe with a woman or with like alcohol, and it's just like not filling. But what's gonna fill that giant like infinite gap? It's God. Like that, like you need to fill it with something infinite. You need to fill it with something good. And so yeah, I don't know, I just like I'm like seeing like a visual, like, oh, like these, like you have like these little circles, like these like black dots. It's like, oh, sex, money, power, and then you're just like trying to fill it into this big large hole that's like, it's like going in and there's like nothing. You're gonna need a lot of it to fill it up. But like God, who is like all good, all knowing, he's a jealous God, who just like wants your attention. He can fill it. And so I think that's where I found a lot of my like happiness, a lot of my fulfillment was like through God. And that's what like allowed me to like turn back, like from a lot of the things that I was like idolizing, which was like sex or alcohol or drugs. And yeah, I think that's like what a lot of people like need, really, is ultimately God in their life again.
Yeah, I think the gap, like you're saying, is you described it as infinite. And I think the reason you're saying that is because you try to fill it with this thing, and then it's like it's gone again, and then it's gone again, and it's gone again. And I've heard this before, you know, where it's like all of our desires are actually like connected to something more important than what we're giving it. You know, like for example, with alcohol, we're looking for healing. We're looking for something to relieve the pain or whatever, you know.
Oh yeah, to numb it down. Yeah,
some kind of like numbness factor. But in reality, we're just looking for healing. Or with drugs, we're looking for like joy, but we don't know how to like find joy in our like regular lives. Or with sex, we're looking for intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for love. And it's like, dang, like actually our desires are good. We're just like doing the wrong things for them.
Our outlets are bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's such a good point. I can see that now as well. And yeah, you have like all, like, we are finite beings that just like desire like the infinite, and like our souls are like, we're gonna be like like our souls are infinite, but like we are like, our bodies are temporary. What does that think? It's like we are living like we're like souls that are living like a human experience, or you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of it.
I hear you. Yeah, I think it's like we're immortal souls experiencing immortal humanity, or something like
a
that.
Human experience. I don't know. It's something trippy, but it's like super real, and I think that's especially like living in a college city like Texas State in San Marcos, like especially like something that idolizes alcohol and the hookup culture so much, like on the square, was like something really weird to see. Because I mean, like, we would go out like as guys, like as household guys who are 21, we would go out together and we would go out for drinks. And I mean, we would like look around and just see like these guys insulting or disrespecting women, and we'd be like, dude, wow, like that's so unfortunate to see. It actually breaks your heart, like if you like realize it, you just see like all this brokenness like all right in front of you. And you just can't help but desire to change it. And like, what can you do? You can only do so much. But yeah, the approach is like, you have to be like patient. That's like a big thing. And yeah, I think, I've just seen it so much on Texas State.
It's sad to see it, you know, because I hear you, and I think before I didn't like really realize all like the brokenness that there is, you know, but it's because we're like numbed and we're like brainwashed to think that some of these things are okay. For example, like you're saying, like disrespecting women, maybe like both men and women, I guess, dressing like immodestly, like with like all of their you know, intimate parts out in the open, and things like, I don't know, like getting wasted in front of everyone.
Oh man, dude, yeah. I think one thing that just like brought me up to mind was my coworkers were just like, dude, yeah, I can't wait to go after work and go into the square, and we're gonna get messed up. And I was like, I asked him, I was like, how do you view alcohol? And I was like going through a little conversion myself, and I was just like, how should Christians drink? But he was like, well, you drink alcohol to get messed up. Like, you drink it so you can black out. And I was like, is that the goal? Is the goal to black out? He's like, yeah, dude, like, it's super fun. I was like, really? I was like, wow, like, I don't think that's the reason. And he actually, like, felt, like, so uncomfortable talking about it that he just, like, walked, like, and tried to pretend like he was doing something. Wow. But that's just how our culture is. It's, like, it's just so misinformed. It's so distorted that I think the enemy does like have a hold of it. It's been because he's like the father of lies, and he's definitely lied a lot about alcohol and how like about sex, and I mean, like, all of those things are a gift from God, and it's just like how we use it and how we go about it is so different.
You talked about how the point of drinking is not to black out. So someone that's listening to this eventually is gonna be thinking in their head, if the point isn't to black out, then what's the point of drinking?
I guess I try to go about that in like my own way. I'm like, okay, like trying to look from a Catholic perspective, and it's like too much of anything is bad. Like too much of drinking is obviously bad because you fall into drunkenness. Too much of I don't know, what's something like innocent, I guess.
Sex.
Okay, yeah. Too much of sex can be bad because then you idolize yourself, or you forget about the person, and you actually look towards like self. It's more selfish than selfless. So I think the goal of alcohol, or like the purpose of it, is to be for a celebration. I think that's a big thing. I mean, as Catholics, we made beer. Like, it's so funny. Like, monks made beer, and they did it just because it was to celebrate. I mean, Jesus turned water into wine, and he, I was for a wedding. Jesus is in, his blood is in the wine, and that is to be in communion with them. That is to be a community. So I think like how we went out is like we went for like a purpose, and it was like, okay, we're gonna celebrate for this. We're not gonna we're not gonna drink because it makes us feel good. That's not the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like, oh, it tastes good. Okay, that's great. That's not bad. But like too much of it can be bad, if that makes sense.
I hear you. Yeah. Okay, so maybe this like repurposing things can be like a good thing to talk about as we're talking about like the brokenness in our world. Something else that came to my mind is hookup culture, because I remember like from high school up until like college and probably through even now, you just hear like men talking about like women, and they're like, oh, like I'm definitely gonna do this to her, or I'm definitely gonna get with her.
It was so normalized when I was like, dude, when I was a freshman in high school, it was so normalized.
It was like we talked about that kind of thing all the time. When I was in my football team, in my baseball team, it was like degrading women all the time.
Yeah,
and
like,
I thought that was normal. I feel like I didn't realize how bad that was until later, when I like was able to. I've always respected women. My mom always raised me to respect women, but I didn't realize that was bad in that moment, because it was like all the popular, quote unquote kids talking about it, or all of like the football team, and it's like they're degrading the woman not because they're saying like I like her, or because I have a crush on her or something like that, but because they start talking about like their body parts, or they start talking about how bad they want to have sex with them and things like that.
Body count too.
Body count was like a flex, dude.
Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's like who had like the most like women, and that was like it's a competition. It was like, it's really like disgusting like to see it. Like even when I was like a freshman, sophomore in high school, I was just like, that doesn't sound right. And I mean, there's no one to tell you no. There's no one to like steer you, because there's honestly like a lack of masculinity. There's a lack of fatherhood in our world, and men don't know how to be men. Men don't know how to raise sons. It's basically children raising children. And yeah, like in the valley, it's so normal. Like, yeah, I can just like, I'm like having flashbacks when like I remember seeing like my friends' dads like acting like complete fools of themselves. I'm like, wow, that's your dad? Like, that's really weird. Like for him to be like acting that way and talking about other women, and I'm like, no wonder why he's divorced. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, I definitely wish that I could have had the masculine genius information I have now to be able to like have acted on that like earlier. Like I think I don't like to regret things, but I think I do regret that. Like I wish I could have said something and been like, hey, like don't talk about women like that. Like that's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, even if you did, dude, you would get roasted.
You probably would, is a thing.
They would make fun of you so hard.
But I'd take that over anything. Honestly, like I feel because then later on you realize it, Like if somebody would have done that in high school, like if I'm like, okay, I remember Robert, just random name. I remember Robert said like, hey, let's don't talk about women like this. But then later on in college, when we like all mature and realize what like things like that are really about, I feel like I'd think back and be like, dang, like
he's real.
He's real. Like he knew, and I now I feel dumb because I fell into this circle of joking about women or all these bad comments. So okay, so we're talking about the hookup culture. What do you think is like the cure, or what we can do to get rid of this culture, dude? Like this is the problem.
That's a whole can of worms, dude. That is a hard question, because basically I think I remember having this conversation with a person, and she was pretty left-winged, like hardcore left, and she was like, basically the only way to stop it is, I told her like, it's not cool that there's like guys using women. She's like, yeah, that's right, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna like prohibit sex? I'm like, that's gonna make it worse. And I was like, I don't think we should prohibit sex. I think we should educate men on how to be men. I think that's like a huge hole that our culture lacks, is like men need to learn what it means to be men and pass it on to the next generation. And I've seen some really good examples of fatherhood in Focus and in SPO, and I'm like, okay, there's hope for our generation. But when I go back home, I'm like, dang, like this is gonna be rough. And I remember it's like it took generations for this to happen. It took generations for it to be like this, for men to be this immature, and it's going to take generations for it to build it back up. And so we're only part of a bigger picture that God has. Like we are, like our role here, it's basically to be as holy as we are, or get as holy as we can. And if we're called to marriage, then we are called to lead our children and our spouse to heaven. And that's like the one like goal. And I think of in an ideal world, if every man prayed, if every man had a personal relationship with Christ, it would make everything like perfect, because men have such a huge role in society.
Right.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I think there's not like a one thing cure for hookup culture, but I think that it does start with like educating men to respect women. And once we can put women in that like higher place that they're supposed to be, you know, and like, because you know a lot of people will say like, oh yeah, like I put her on a pedestal and like this and that, and there's like this weird word like simps, you know.
Oh yeah.
When you can locate that correctly, when you can like actually put that in like the right place, you know, like say if I have a girlfriend and I give her her place as like my partner, the person I'm in a relationship with, and I respect her correctly, like there's such a beauty in that, you know.
Yeah.
Because you're respecting the fact that her mission is like nurturing, her mission is beauty. You know, like if you really think about it, the only and most beautiful thing in this world are women. Like that was the design of God.
Oh yeah.
Is women are beautiful. And not that men aren't, but we're not. We're not supposed to be like, you know, quote unquote beautiful or nurturing or all these other things, but there is like this certain type of nature, and I think that men don't realize that.
Yeah.
And a lot of women get offended quickly because we don't give them that place, and then they become defensive, and that's where you get like feminists from. And it's like, oh well, this man is trying to say that I'm like not the same as him, and yeah, like there's equality. Well, there's like a gender equality for sure, but we have different roles.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we
are not equal. We are unique.
Yeah.
That's like the big thing. Like men are called to be protectors and providers. Women are called to be nurturing and I guess you said beautiful. And it's so funny because I remember like my sophomore year, I got this question. I'm like, if you like say you're at a beach with your wife and like you have a boy, like your little boy, like he's like running in the water, like and there's like a big wave coming, like what do you do? I said I'll just like let him experience the big wave, like let's see what happens, and like let him learn from it. And I think the woman would probably just like panic and try to go save him. And that's like how different like men and women are. Like men, they'll like let their sons get a little hurt so they can learn and they can experience it. But women just like want to protect and want to love. And I'm like, that's so true. Like,
yeah,
that's so funny how it's so unique.
It's hard to avoid, dude, because it's like so natural. Like I feel like a lot of sons and daughters are like a lot closer to their mom, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know where, dang it, I'm forgetting now, but there was like this story of this like little boy who like he had all this like issue and couldn't like finish doing his like athletic challenge, whatever it was, I don't know, some kind of athletic challenge. He went to cry to his mom like, you know, gave him a hug and all these things and was able to like calm him down or whatever. He came back and he was like, Dad, I'm like ready. And I'm like doing this, but it wasn't like a hug from Dad. And I don't think that it's like there's anything wrong with that, because there is like this like masculine formation whenever you're able to like go to your dad, and your dad like no, sorry, I was about to say emasculate. When your dad emasculates you and gives you, like, bestows that masculinity on you and is
Yeah.
like, hey, like, you can do it, and like I'm gonna like be the hard rock on you, but you can do this. And your mom's like, you know, that other piece that you need. And it doesn't mean that that role can't switch, because sometimes the dad can be like nurturing, you know, the dad can be,
Yeah.
you know, this loving center for his son or daughter, but it mainly does come from the mom, and that, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
So back to hookup culture. This is why I think where I think the solution is like understanding the feminine genius, understanding the masculine genius, and then being able to apply that day to day, and educating your kids on that.
Yeah.
Because it starts at such a young age. You know, like I've heard a lot of stories from just like small groups and stuff like that of guys that like their first encounter with pornography was 5th grade, and it's like, how do you change a mind that is like a little sponge and has already seen pornography, has already intook all this terrible media? How do you change that mind? And it's like, well, like that comes from like early education.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard conversations really too. That's a lot of things that we lack, is like confrontation or to be uncomfortable sometimes. And yeah, I remember you say hookup culture, like even like educating them on like what sex is and like why sex is so sacred, because sex isn't just like you sleeping with another person. It's like giving yourself fully to the other person, and in a way it's like you're spiritually bonded. I don't know if I think you talked about this in your other podcast with Father Jared, maybe.
No,
but
I think I was talking with Will about it. You were there.
Oh, okay. But yeah, like you were like bonded spiritually and like now physically, and it's like you grow like a tie with them. Like your soul is like tied with this person, and like the more you like engage in this, the more like stronger that tie is gonna be. And that's why like it's so funny, because like you see like all these like shows and movies like where they're just friends with benefits, and then eventually they fall in love with each other. Well, that's not coincidence. It's because they're like spiritually bonded to one another.
Yeah.
So, and it's also just so normalized in our culture as well. It's just like, it's like, oh, like I got laid yesterday. I'm like, oh, everyone's like congratulating the guy. Like, nice, dude. I'm like, what the heck? That's like so uncommon, especially just like take yourself back like years behind, like 50 years ago. That would be like forbidden.
I actually, now they say that, I remember seeing, I don't remember what movie it was, but there's probably a few movies, honestly, where like people would make fun of the guy that was like 30 years old and still a virgin.
Oh, there's a 40-year-old virgin?
Is it that?
It's a
I don't
movie.
know, dude.
It's a super funny movie.
Well, but that idea is like in more than just that movie. That idea is like in a bunch of movies where it's like, oh, this guy's like lame and he's a nerd because he didn't have sex when he was in high school or this and that. And it's like, I feel like that affected me, because I was like, dang, I don't want to be 25 years old and still a virgin.
Missing out. Yeah, I think there was also like a TikTok trend where they would actually get the guy cake and they would play the song that it's like, I just had to, and like and they would be like outside the door and like banging on it, and just like with a cake, literally a cake, and it says virgin, like with an X on it.
Like, good for you.
Yeah. So I'm like, bro, especially when you get to college, man. Oh my gosh, it's like a man's mind is like, I would say boy's mind, because they're not men. A boy's mind is like, oh, free market. They're like, oh, Facebook Marketplace, dude, let's get it. Like they're like, oh, so many options. They're like, okay,
for sure. I hear you, and I think well, first of all, I just want to say that for the people that like are playing a part in hookup culture, most of the time I think it's just like they were broken by some kind of relationship that they had. Like something went wrong along the way, and and they ended up like needing to refresh themselves or fulfill themselves with like a sexual pleasure with somebody. And also, we've said the word hookup culture a whole bunch, and I feel like we haven't really defined it. And I think we're both referring to
one night stand.
Is one night stand.
Yeah.
That the whole idea that like you can meet someone and have sex with them one night, and the next morning they're gone and you don't know them anymore, and it's like there was no relationship, there was no nothing. Obviously,
no consequences. Yeah.
And as Catholics, we believe in like, obviously you should get married and then have sex, and sex is like a beautiful thing that God ordered, but it's not even the fact that like people are having sex before marriage, but it's the fact that they're having sex and they have no relationship. I feel like that is like the deepest kind of broken sex there can be. You know, it's like I don't know you, and what I'm telling you with my body is a complete lie.
Yeah, it's so interesting too. It's like I think I'm trying to bring myself back to when I was like a freshman in college. I was like, okay, like the point of marriage is to find someone that you are emotionally, physically, and spiritually connected to. Like I understood that. I'm like, okay, like cool, like this girl, like we're vibing. Like okay, like she's funny, she's cool, but like am I okay with having like sex with her like every day? And like am I okay with that? And that was like a huge thing that I was like kind of like contemplating. But yeah, I was also like really Gianna, like who she's my girlfriend now, so shout out to Gianna. It was so funny because we had an argument when we were first dating. It was like, should people live together? And I was like, yeah, I don't see any problem with it. Like, of course, you want to like live with someone so you can kind of get to know if they like if you guys are compatible. And she was like, no. Like, she like put me in check. It's so funny. And like looking back now, I'm just like, yeah, I was an idiot, because people aren't like, you don't just like check out like someone and like live with them. They're not a freaking like rental car. Like you don't, or like they're not test driving a car, dude. Like these are people, and if you love them, like you'll learn to live with them. So that was funny. She reminded me of that the other day, and I was like, yes.
Shout out to Gianna for straightening Adrian out.
She straightened me out.
I had the same thoughts though, and I remember clearly actually. There was one day that my mom asked me. She was like, "What is like your belief, you know, with like sex before marriage and all this and that." This was before I had gotten baptized and before anything. I was actually like exploring Protestant churches at that time, and I was like, I'm gonna try to wait. I was like, but I'm pretty sure it'll happen beforehand. She was like, well, like, why do you think this? And you know, and she brought up like the test drive thing. She was like, well, like women aren't like, you know, just cars that you have to try out, you know. And I was like, oh, like that kind of makes sense. So that clicked a little bit before, and I think once I got to college and like experienced everything, it was like more evident, and I understood a little more why the like scene of like having a girlfriend, living with her, and like thinking like that you have to have sex with her before you get married so you can try it out is like is not really ordered. Like in reality, there's no real reason for it.
Yeah, there's also no real reason to be like dating someone for like over like 5 years. Like I've met people who are like, oh yeah, we've been dating since we were in middle school. I'm like, dude, middle school? Like really? And you have, when I talk to my friends, I'm like, dang, dude, you've been dating for 3 years? Like, when are you gonna pop the question? And they're always like, yeah, when I have enough money. I'm like, do you really need enough money? Like, do you really love her? Kind of thing. Yeah. So that's such a real question, or like thing that our culture idolizes. Like, oh, like I need to be stable in order to be married. And there's just so much. Yeah, there's so much you can talk about this podcast, dude. And I'm like so excited for you. It's like you have so much to talk about.
I'm definitely excited just to like continue to like dive into topics like that, like for example, marriage and
how to
dating.
Date. Yeah,
how to date is. Dude, that's a tough one. I don't know who I would do that with. Maybe Mars. I don't know. Think about it. Shout out to my girlfriend. But anyways, so
that's a good one.
Another thing that I want to say, just like for the audience, is that if you find yourself like at this moment in a position where you're like, well, like thanks for making me feel bad. I've been having sex with my girlfriend and this and that. It's like, hey, there's no shame in the game, dude. Like, first of all, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and that's okay. I think the process of understanding like your body and understanding how you relate to like a woman's body is a very natural process, and it happens often in our world. And unfortunately, like all of humanity has broken this this area, and I don't think that we need to like shame ourselves for like having done like what we have done. I think it's a matter of like figuring out how to like be better in these aspects and saying like, okay, why am I having sex with this person? Why am I in this position? How can I be better at this or whatnot?
Yeah.
And then I think having grace with yourself and just saying like, if you're in that position right now, it's not like from one day to the next you're just immediately gonna like be all types of like healed and all this and that. It takes work, dude. It takes work. Even now, I still like experience temptations, and I always will be. Like men, we will always experience sexual temptations, and that's okay. It's part of like our nature. It's part of our hormones and what God planned for us. So just have grace with yourself, and just know that like we're on your side, and there's a lot of help you can get for things like that, even if it's not an addiction, but just like in terms of like, I want to heal my broken heart because I have had sex with 27 different women or whatever, you know. It's like there's no shame in that, dude. Like it's the same.
YouTube is a huge option, or a huge help. Like that was like a big part of my formation. Is like,
you say YouTube, you mean like videos of like
I would
how to be better in that?
Oh yeah. I would like look up like or just like online. It was so funny. Like Father Mike Schmitz was a huge guy who like I like looked up to. I would also Catholic Answers was also like, I would be like, why you or like how to date, and then I would put the word Catholic behind it, and dude, that would always open up so much. I'd be like, okay, so that's why that should be the stance on the church. Okay, got it. That makes so much more sense. That's why I should be acting this way and why I shouldn't do this. And YouTube and Google, man, those were a big part of my formation.
Right.
Huge.
Dude, yeah. Well, we could definitely take this.
We could take like 8 hours of this.
Hours for sure. But dude, that was like a really good conversation, and I think that the point was really like recognizing the brokenness in our world and recognizing that there's solutions.
Oh yeah.
And I think like in terms, if you were to scale it, perfect world being a 10, how broken is our world?
Oh dude, like maybe like a point 0.9.
Oh, we started with a point 0.9, not even the 1.
I think we have a lot of work to do. I think there's I will say though, like I'm only thinking of the bad. I think when I look at ministries like St. Paul's Outreach and Focus, and like on like in the churches, like I see younger people and I get so happy because there's like a lot of hope. Then I think of like, okay, like we can do this, like covenant communities that are building deep relationship, like this is awesome. Like I'm thinking like, oh, 7.5, 7.9, like we got, like this is good, but we got work to do.
Right.
But like on college campuses who like don't have like ministries like we have, or like hometown, like my hometown, or like the Valley area, it's just like, oh man, like there's so much we need to work on, and all it takes is one person. So yeah, hopefully we can build up leaders of the church, and those leaders can impact guys like you and younger men and women who can keep the change going. So
yeah, the reason I wanted to like ask that and kind of clarify that is because I think the first step to solving anything is recognizing the problem.
Oh yeah,
like we need to know, and in any position you're at, whether you're Christian, Catholic, I don't know, Anglican, Methodist, Buddhist, what do they call it, like the word agnostic, Jehovah's Witness, I don't care what you are. First of all, I'm glad you're listening to this pod. It's just
like
conversation.
And subscribe.
Like and subscribe. But I think that it's important that we all recognize like our world is broken and we need to do something about it. And that's why we're in the pursuit of truth. And that's why you're listening to Pursuing Truth podcast.
Dang, you should finish every podcast like that. That'd be really good.
Dude, thanks for giving me advice while we're live.
No. I think you gotta come up with like a cool slogan at the end.
Yeah, kind of like Father Mike Schmitz.
Yeah. I don't know what he says at the end.
I feel like he says some stuff like that.
It's like the music where the piano goes like. And
I need you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, sorry, off topic, but yeah, brokenness of our world. Our world is broken. We need to fix it. And there's ways to do that. And it starts with us, you know, like Michael Jackson said.
Starts with you, whoever's listening.
Yeah.
Shout out to my mom.
So thank you for listening to Pursuing Truth podcast. This is Hector Lazaro, your host, with Adrian Espandola. And I just hope that this was helpful for you. And I hope that you can receive a lot from it and be able to share it. So also, if you feel like this podcast is good, please just continue sharing it. I feel like I'm not doing a great job sharing it, and I'm trying, but I need help from everyone to please share to like your coworkers, to your family, to your friends, to anyone that you feel like could listen to it. I try to keep them relatively short, but if the conversation is hot, I'm going to keep the conversation hot. So this one's at an hour and 4 minutes and 55 seconds.
Go.
So that was pretty good.
Happy Father Jared. Let's go.
I hope Father Jared hears that. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to Pursuing Truth Podcast. This is Hector Lazaro. Peace.